One of the areas that has predicted quite successfully how we're using technology over the past 30 years is actually Star Trek. So if you look at Captain Kirk there, and over 10 years later, the mobile phone, iPads, televisions, Google Glass, which is about to come out, a lot of this has come through for Star Trek. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find any insurance parallels in Star Trek, so instead what I've done today is tried to get some parallels on other insurance industries that have gone through similar phases to Russia, and then parallel where the insurance industry might wind up. So I'll start off with a little introduction, a little bit about RSA and my team, and a little bit about why online is important. I'll give a couple of examples, namely Sweden and the UK, a little bit of a note about online purchasing, some interesting parallels there for the local Russian market, and then a quick note on mobile. I'm presenting to mobile, and this is the tempter to hopefully get you back tomorrow for that presentation. So a little bit about RSA. We started in 1710, insurance just after the Great Fire in London, and back then we had fire engines to actually put out fires that would start in the London area. Now we have about 17 million customers. We're in over 140 countries, about 23,000 employees, and that includes InTouch as part of our global direct group there. So you can see a lot of brands, a lot of places around the world. So my team is based centrally in London. It's a hub of e-business or digital experts around consultancy, analytics, design and user experience, development, and agility. And our job is to link in with all those countries around the world to leverage our efficiency and really drive down the cost and get a bit of reusability back in the system. So just a local note on why online is important for Russia. If I look at Yandex, which is probably one of the best sorts of information for e-commerce done online, you can see that your internet audience here is climbing steadily. It's really good growth rates. And people are using it more and more often. Sorry to the people over that side. I don't know if my laser pointer will quite reach over there. But people are using it more and more often through the day. You see that this green line is people using it daily. And now most people are using their devices. And as Maria says, as I look out, it's not just one device, it's many devices. So we see these growth stats globally. People are spending more and more time online across multiple devices, and the expectations are really high. It used to be that our consumers would judge us within the industry, so were we good as an insurance online provider? Now they just look at who does the best in any area. So if Yandex has a great customer experience, they expect us to have a great customer experience. If Amazon is doing something in the UK, they expect us to be just as good. So let me tell you about where some other markets have gone online, and I want to contrast two cities. One is Stockholm, where we have a direct company called Trygg-Hansa, and London, where we have more than an e-choice. Now, the reason that I've chosen these two is when you look at the complexity of a quote, Sweden is one of the simplest in the world, and the UK is one of the most difficult in the world. So that shows the number of questions you have to answer to get a quote online, and you can see Sweden's quite small, and the UK is quite large. So here's Sweden, nice, easy homepage. If you click on Get a Quote, this is your page. You're asked for two details, your personal number, and your personal number, everyone in the room, if we were Swedish, would have a personal number, and it links to your name, your date of birth, your address. Basically, all your personal information is kept in a government database, which we can then link into with permission. The second thing is a registration number, and all the car details are again held in a central government deposit, so we only need those two things and we can give you a quote very simply. So in the Sweden example, shopping around is very simple because it only takes 5 seconds to get a quote. If I take the UK example, we don't have a centralised database of people. We have a lot of questions that we want to ask to establish risk. I've heard fraud mentioned a number of times. UK has a lot of fraud, and we want to make sure that we minimise the amount of fraudulent people we take on. So this is what our journey looks like, and I've had to condense it down a little bit. But you can see there's a lot of questions. So one of the things that comes out of complexity, it's not always a bad thing. If we had 2 questions in the UK, we would get a lot of fraudulent customers and we would lose a lot of money. So we have to ask these questions. And the journey itself isn't a bad journey, but it does make shopping around for consumers very difficult. Because how many times do you want to fill out all of that information to get a quote? Not many people want to do that. So that's led to what we call aggregators in the UK. So Maria mentioned Direct Line. Back in 1985, that was the first direct business. And at that point, it was only by telephone. Then in 2000, we see .com boom. We start seeing these direct players going online to start giving online quotes. About 2002, people were getting a little bit sick of having to put all that information in, and the aggregators came up to serve a customer need. The customer need is, I want to put my customer information in once, but I want a number of quotes. And now in 2013, there are 4 major aggregators that I'll go through in a moment. So we've got in the UK Confused, Money Supermarket, Compare the Market and Go Compare. Don't need to know all the detail that's up there, but the key part is that they give quotes for over 100 insurers. They offer comparison across multiple products. They've branched out beyond insurance. Now they'll do credit cards. They'll do basically anything that they can use your customer data to sell you. And this is pretty staggering. They spent £120 million just between the 4 of them in 2012 on advertising. £120 million. So you can imagine what watching television in the UK is like, because every damn advertisement is one of these 4 people. It does also mean it's very hard to compete outside of the aggregators. So this is Google search, similar to Yandex for those who use Yandex here. When I type in just car insurance, these are all the aggregators. There's only 2 direct players who make the top. One of them, thankfully, is our brand, More Than, and the other one is Direct Line there, who are buying their advertising space. Very cluttered market, very difficult to get out of that aggregator space. It also means that everyone's products have to be pretty much the same, because if you're going to compare side by side, these aggregators have the power, and they say these are the questions that you're able to ask to be on our panel. And this is what the final product is. You can see all 4 of them look quite different, but what they all do give is different quotes for different companies that you can then go ahead and buy online. The other thing that changes the game a little bit here is they then own that customer. So we're at arm's length from the end customer, which is, from a direct play, what you were trying to avoid in the first place. So if I parallel that back and see, well, where is Russia in terms of quote complexity? You're actually pretty good in terms of the countries that we look at across the board. You're one of the more simple to get a quote. So you're definitely not the huge amount of questions that the UK has. But there is quite a bit of variance in the market here. So in most of the markets we deal with, it's maybe 2, maybe 3 questions difference between the most complex and the simplest. It's quite a difference between the most complex and the simpler ones here. By the way, if anyone was thinking, what's the one down the bottom here, number 1? This is just license plate. They don't need to know who you are, they just insure the car. So just give me your license plate and there's a quote. And that's the simplest one that we have in the RSA network at the moment. So if I move on from the quote side to then when the customer decides to make a decision to actually purchase, we see quite different behaviour around the world in how different countries operate. So I can't show you which country is which, but what this is showing, the blue here shows the percentage in that country that buy purely online. The green shows people that quote online, but then want to ring someone to purchase offline. And this here shows that I only want to talk to someone on the telephone. So you can see that although globally we're moving to a lot more automation, we're moving to a lot more online for everything, in the insurance industry at least, there's still reluctance in a lot of our countries to finish that last mile online, to put the credit card details in online and to then complete the purchase. Now, I understand in every country it's a little bit different. An example here is Norway. So Norway's got a great design, really nice journey. At the end of it, it thanks you for coming on board, but they can never ever get people to pay up front. It's just a cultural thing. So we mail out a hard copy of an invoice, and 30 days later, the customer comes back online and pays the invoice. So it's not a reluctance to pay online. It's not a reluctance to give the credit card up, but they have got a reluctance to give up this 30 days. They don't want to pay from day one when they get it. And I guess I see some slight parallels here when we start talking to Russian customers. They like having the piece of paper in their hand before they give the money out. I want to know that you're a real company, and an online company sometimes can be difficult to say, yes, I'm actually here, I've got some people, I've got some bricks and mortar, I'm going to be here tomorrow when you've got a claim. So over here, I guess we see a number of players using different options. We do online all the way through, but I guess that's not the norm here at the moment. There's a number of things that stop, I think, in Russia, but trust is one of them. And it's both our responsibility from an insurance point of view to be careful with our customers' credit card details, but also partnering with the banks. And this is something that we've had to do quite a bit in the UK because there's a lot of online fraud. So, these are just three of the bigger banks here. I consistently get emails from my bank helping me to avoid fraud with my credit card. I get calls quite often proactively asking me, did you buy this online? We're about to stop your credit card. So they're very, very proactive, and that makes me feel quite assured that I can use my card online, and if something fraudulent is going to happen, they'll be right on top of it and proactively get back to me. So now just a final closing thought, just about how people are using different devices online. So, as I look around, I see Android devices, I see some iPhones, I definitely see some iPads, both the mini and the full version, and some Samsung tablets as well. They're all slightly different sizes, which makes design very difficult. So what we've tried to do from a design point of view is come up with a way of designing a customer journey that it doesn't matter what the screen size is. So here in Russia, you can see that mobile internet penetration is at least at a quarter. So a quarter of people are using mobile internet. They're searching on their phones, they're searching on their tablets. So we can't really ignore that, that customer behaviour. We had a country that ignored it for a little while. This was the percentage of customers here in the green line. Hope you can see that. The green line showed the percentage of visits that were in mobile devices. And it went up from about 10% to about 15% over a year. As soon as we launched a mobile responsive site, and I'll show you what that means in a minute, it went from 15% to above 25%. Before that, people were just dropping off. They'd look at our site, it didn't render properly on the device, it was a pretty awful experience, and they'd just leave. So what we use now is what's called responsive design, which is a design that works no matter what the width of your device is. No matter if you're looking at it this way, I've got a big screen TV down here that I can see, it would work perfectly on that. So there's the in-touch site as it would look on my laptop. This is what it looks like on my mobile, and this is how it works in terms of the design. So it starts off at that width, or any width. As I pull that in, you can see the design respond. It changes the size, and it changes the layout, and sometimes it changes the wording as well. So this will work no matter what device you're working on, and this now is our standard in RSA. Because customers are so demanding, they're saying, if you don't have a good experience on whatever device, I'll leave and find someone that does. Now, Yandex and Google operate differently, but Google now won't put you in top search rankings unless you're responsive if you're coming through on a mobile device. So, before that country launched responsive design, when you searched in Google, we didn't come up on the first page. As soon as we launched responsive design, now we're up in the top 2. And I assume that Yandex will probably use a similar algorithm moving forward, that if you're coming through on a mobile device, they want a great experience. So if you're not mobile optimized, you won't get in the top page rankings. Tomorrow I'll go through a little bit more of that. That was just a teaser just to make you want to come back. That's it for me for now, so I'll hand back to Maria. Thanks.